Love is a mystery that defies logic. Sometimes it is sweet, sometimes cruel. Anyone who has ever truly loved knows that love can bring endless joy, but it can also create confusion and pain. Imagine being deeply connected to someone, feeling their presence as a certainty, and then suddenly that someone starts ignoring you. No arguments, no clear signals, just silence and distance. Many think that this is a sign of disinterest, a clear indication that love has died. But what if it were the opposite? What if the act of ignoring was not a denial of the feeling, but a deeper manifestation of it? Carl Jung, one of the greatest and most recognized scholars of the human psyche, left us all precious teachings to understand these dynamics today. We will explore the hidden side of love, the one that hides in the shadows of the unconscious, and that can push someone to distance themselves just when the bond becomes more intense. Get ready to discover a truth that could change the way you interpret love forever. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to the Mental Dose channel in the Telegram channel so you don't miss the next videos on personal and spiritual growth. And now, let's begin. Love is not just a superficial. Love is a mirror emotion, nor a simple exchange of affection between two people. It is a complex phenomenon that has deep roots, involving both the conscious part of the mind and the hidden part. Carl Jung, with his studies on the human psyche, showed how the mind is divided into two great worlds: the conscious, that of which we are fully aware, and the unconscious, an underground dimension in which emotions, traumas, repressed desires, and unresolved fears accumulate. We believe we know what we want in love, but often it is the unconscious that guides our choices, dictates our fears, and sabotages our relationships without realizing it. When we truly love, we live a shocking experience. The other becomes a mirror that reflects not only our dreams and hopes, but also our dark sides and hidden wounds through love. We see not only what we desire, but also what we fear. And not everyone is ready to look at themselves in this mirror. Some seeing insecurities emerge that they thought they had overcome, clash with aspects of their personality that they do not want to face. And it is at this moment that an unconscious protection mechanism is triggered. Detachment, not because love is not real, but because it is too intense. When love exposes the instinct to flee. When love becomes fear, vulnerabilities, it can become something difficult to manage some people rather than face their internal conflict. Consciously prefer to distance themselves, disappear, ignore the idea that love is always a safe haven is an illusion. Love can be a source of peace, but it can also shake certainties, bring out deep personal insecurities, bring to the surface traumas that were thought to be forgotten. Every time an authentic bond is born, the unconscious is activated, setting in motion a series of defense mechanisms. Being loved means being seen for who you really are without masks, without defenses, and this is a step that not everyone can easily sustain. Those who have experienced abandonment may have a fearful unconscious, which suggests not to trust those who have been disappointed in the past, may have developed the belief that love is dangerous. Those who have learned to control everything in their life may feel threatened by such a powerful and unpredictable feeling if it teaches that what we refuse to see in ourselves does not disappear, but manifests itself in relationships. If a person feels that love is making them too vulnerable, if they perceive the risk of losing themselves in the bond, then their unconscious can trigger a defense reaction that is distancing rationally. They may not want this distance. They may even suffer from it. But the deepest emotions are governed by the unconscious, and when this conflicts with the conscious, I use desire to love, fear wins over will from the outside. This behavior may. The paradox of love seems inexplicable. Why would someone who loves distance themselves? Why ignore the one they love? The answer: lies in the way the psyche deals with internal conflicts. Love is an overwhelming force, and like any powerful force, it can be destabilizing for many people. Emotional intimacy is something they desire, but fear. At the same time, they may feel a deep need to be close to someone, but at the same time, fear that that closeness will awaken wounds, generate dependency, or lead to a loss of control. Some then react with contradictory behavior. They show love, but then close down. They seek contact, but then disappear. They say they want the relationship, but then avoid confrontation. This happens because love sets in motion a conflict between the desire for connection and the fear of intimacy. The deeper the bond, the more the fear intensifies, and when a person feels they are too involved, they may feel an unconscious need to regain control by detaching, ignoring taking up space. It is not a conscious choice. It is a form of self-defense that arises from the darkest areas of the psyche when someone, understanding this behavior, who loves you, starts ignoring you. Your first reaction is to think you've done something wrong. But the truth is that it often has nothing to do with you. It has to do with what the other person is going through inside. Don't take it all personally, because detachment doesn't necessarily mean disinterest. It's often a sign that the other person is fighting an internal battle. In these cases, the worst thing you can do is chase or try to force a response. If someone is pulling away out of fear, trying to hold them back can create even more resistance. True love isn't about possession or control, but the ability to let the other person face their fears without feeling suffocated. What makes everything more complex is that absence can be a way for the other to unconsciously test the depth of the bond. Sometimes those who distance themselves do so to see if love can withstand the distance, if it is strong enough to survive even without constant confirmation. This behavior may seem unfair, but it is a natural reaction of those who fear involvement. They create distance to feel safe, to not feel trapped in an emotion they cannot manage. However, those who use distance as a test are often not yet ready for a stable love. True love does not need imposed tests, but is built on trust and authentic presence. Those who run away may return. But the real question is, will they return with a new maturity? Or will they continue to oscillate between presence and absence? The only answer that matters is the one they will demonstrate with their actions. True love is not measured by what if they never return, constant presence, but by the ability to overcome fear and distance. Some people need time to process their feelings. Some will get lost along the way, but what is true will always find a way to return. If a person moves away, there is no point in holding them back with the fear of loss. If it is true love, if it is meant to last, the distance will not be an end but a necessary step in the maturation of the bond. But what if they don't come back? What happens before we continue and answer this key question? I sincerely hope that you're enjoying this video and that it is inspiring for you. So don't forget to share it with anyone you think could benefit from it. Also, if you want to support our channel and our work, I remind you that you can leave a donation by clicking the thank you button below the video. We will be infinitely grateful. And now let's continue. If love doesn't come back, then that distance wasn't a loss, but a lesson, because true love isn't a fight to hold someone back, but the ability to let them choose. We often see love as something to be conquered or preserved at all costs, but the reality is that authentic love isn't measured by its duration, but by the impact it has on us. Sometimes people come into our lives not to stay, but to show us something we had yet to understand. Someone's absence can teach us more than their presence, because it forces us to look inside ourselves, to ask ourselves what really scares us, the loss of the other, or the emptiness they leave inside us. Maybe that person touched deep chords, awakening something that we had hidden even from ourselves. This is why love, even when it turns into distance, can be an opportunity for growth. It is not always easy to accept it, but the person who leaves could have been the catalyst for a change that we would never have undertaken. Alone love, after all, is not just the desire to be with someone, but the ability to become more aware. People through what we feel. Furthermore, zero awareness is an often overlooked aspect to all of this. Those who distance themselves do not always know why they are doing it. Many people are not aware of their own inner world. They do not realize that love has activated old fears in them, self-defense patterns that have been repeating themselves for years. Jung spoke of the power of projections. When someone runs away, they are not necessarily running away from the other, but from an image of themselves that they cannot face their absence, is not a judgment on who you are, but a reflection of their own internal conflict. This is why chasing or asking for explanations often only leads to more distance. The real question is not why someone leaves, but whether they are ready to return with new eyes, with a different awareness. Not everyone will be able to do it, but those who manage to overcome their fear. In return from a more mature position, and only then can love become truly solid. Love is a force that conclusion can heal, but it can also scare. Not always those who ignore you do so because they do not love you. Sometimes the feeling is so deep that it shakes certainties, reawakens fears, and puts a person's very identity into crisis. If someone has distanced themselves, do not look for answers. Outside of yourself, look at what this event is. Awakening within you, because, as Jung said, the most important love we can find is the one that allows us to truly know ourselves. And the greatest truth of love is that if it is real, it does not need to be held back. It will always find its way back. And what about you? Have you ever experienced a love that went away just when it seemed most intense? Share your experience with us in the comments. Remember, authentic love is not a chain, but a path of growth. Sometimes it comes closer. Other times it moves away, and often those who ignore us are not running away from us, but from what our love awakens within them. If it is true, they will still find a way to return